My name's Robert Smith. I am the chair of the Board of Trustees for our wonderful library here. And we welcome you to our author series. Just very briefly, we have a new list for next year posted up near the front door, and we welcome you to take a look at that and see if you can find something you'd be interested in. And we bet there are some things that you would be interested in. And we welcome our friends from our next door neighbors from the Commonwealth Attorney's Office. And despite that I practice criminal law as a defense attorney, I hope you won't hold that against me. All right, today we have Deanna O'Daniel, Kiss Your Elbow, a Kentucky memoir. And I tell you, when I read the little blurb, the first thing I thought of was Stewart's department store, where my mother used to take me to Stewart's department store. Well, she shopped, and I hoped that we would go to the basement and get a chocolate shake. But nonetheless, I promise you this will be a lovely trip through our wonderful state and city. And everyone enjoy their lunch, and please welcome Miss Deanna O'Daniel.
Well, thank you so much for your nice warm welcome, and thank you, Robert, for the introduction.
You're welcome.
Okay, all right, so my books, I have written 3. Kiss Your Elbow was written first, and everybody says, well, what does that mean, kiss your elbow? Well, it's impossible to kiss your elbow, isn't it? All right, so that means trying for the impossible. And when I was a child, I was the oldest of 11, and 7 of those kids were brothers. All right, so the boys turned out to get a lot more privileges than the girls did. So my grandmother lived with us until I was 6. She passed away, and I asked her one day, I said, when do I get to be a boy? I want some privileges too. And she said, when you can kiss your elbow. Before you go to sleep at night, kiss your elbow and you'll wake up as a boy. So, at 6 years old, life was pretty magical back then because we didn't have TV and the radio coverage was pretty bad. We lived in Gethsemane, Kentucky. I was born in a farmhouse in Gethsemane, Kentucky. And so I kept trying to kiss my elbow, and of course that never happened, and I'm still a girl. So why did I write my books? Basically, I wrote my books for my children. I belong to a writing group called the Cherokee Round Table, and we read every month when we meet. We read something that we've written, and my collection of readings is starting to grow pretty large after a year or so, and they said, you need to publish that because what you're telling us is the history of America during the middle of the 20th century. So I put it together and did. And the things I talk about in Kiss Your Elbow are just the ways that life was lived back then. I grew up on a farm. How many of you grew up on farms? Good, 2 people in here, 3, all right. Well, nowadays, how many people do you think grew up on farms? Very few, okay? All right, and we were in, like I said, in Gethsemane, Kentucky, but after the war, Dad wanted the security of a job. So we moved to the outskirts of Louisville, which was Hikes Point. It was rural. Anybody here from Hikes Point? Okay, if you know where the on Hunsinger Lane, if you know where the post office is, that's where our farm was. And it was all rural then. Hunsinger Lane was a gravel road. And so it got paved when I was like in the 8th grade because during the middle of the 50s, white flight started happening and all the cornfields became subdivisions. And it happened so quickly, Hikes Point disappeared. And then my family moved to Alta Avenue, which was in the Highlands. They needed a bigger house anyway. The house that we lived in was an old tenant house from a farmer farm, and it had 1 bathroom in it. But we did have the outhouse in the garden, or the orchard that we could use if we didn't feel like waiting in line for the bathroom in the house. So, some of the things that I experienced as a child, kids could never dream of experiencing these days. We didn't have electricity until I was like 10, and we used coal lanterns that we carried around. Mom cooked on a kerosene stove. like I said, for a while, when we lived in this house, this old tenant farmhouse, we had only the outhouse that was in the orchard. So when I was in the 8th grade, we celebrated our indoor bathroom. Wow, that was so much great fun. You could go to the bathroom in warmth. Okay, so I talk about going downtown. We always celebrated fall by going downtown and getting clothes for the kids to wear to school. And the story that I kind of maintained this book, Kiss Your Elbow, at when I was like between 8 and 12. So at that time, there were only like 3 of us in school, and the girls wore uniforms. I went to St. Bartholomew's in Buchel. It was the closest church to Hikes Point. And so the girls wore blue skirts and white blouses. The boys wore any kind of pants and a white shirt. So we had to go downtown to buy socks, underclothes, new coats, gloves, hats, and of course blouses and shirts for me and the boys. So we would go downtown maybe in late August, because school started the day after Labor Day back then. You all may remember that. We got to play until the day after Labor Day. And Dad, of course, with 11 kids, was very judicial about the way we should spend our money. So he wanted all of our stuff to be bought at dime stores. All right, are you all familiar with how many dime stores we used to have downtown? All right, let's have some memory names. Does anybody remember the names? Woolworths. Okay, what's another one? Kresge's. What's another one? McCrory's. What's another one? Grant's. And which one did you say?
Were the W.G. Grants there?
W.T. Grant's, yes. All right, well, the dime stores were amazing. They sold candy as you came in the front door, and they smelled so good with the candy bar and our counter, I guess you'd call it. And they also had a popcorn machine that smelled so good.
The roasted nuts.
Please?
The roasted nuts.
The roasted nuts, yes, and they smelled excellent. And then they had a lunch counter, and in fact, all the dime stores did have lunch counters. And when we went shopping, we would go from store to store to find one with a banana split sale. And the banana splits back then cost a whopping 29 cents, but that was a fortune in the 50s. So if you were lucky enough, at the banana split sale, there would be a string tied in front of the mirrors, and on the string were these little uninflated balloons, and they had prices inside. So you would pick your balloon, and you could get a banana split from 2 cents all the way up to 29 cents. And of course, most of the prices were a quarter or 27 cents or something like that. But if you were lucky, you'd get one for a nickel or for even less. So, and then they also had a piano player in the dime stores who hawked the latest sheet music. People weren't buying records back then because it was too expensive, and not everybody had a record player, but lots of people had pianos in their houses, and everybody knew how to play the piano, and my mother played the piano. So the piano player would take any request that you would give him, and he'd just play away. So that was like the music in the background that we got to hear. But the most exciting thing for me about the dime stores was you could go in the back of the store. Does anybody remember what was in the back of the store?
Birds and goldfish.
Yes, exotic pets.
Yes.
Birds. Really cute little birds like those little lovebirds, gray ones with red heads, and they had parakeets and canaries, and they also had exotic things like turtles with painted backs and doilies pasted on their back, those little cute little turtles. And they had, of all things, mice. We didn't believe in collecting any mice because we had plenty of mice on the farm. They would come in from the barn in the fall, and they'd be in our kitchen cabinets, and we'd have them in mouse traps. But they also had gerbils, hamsters, goldfish, and angelfish, lots of exotic fish. But for Easter, Does anybody remember what they did for Easter?
Baby chicks.
They had baby chicks and they dyed them just like Easter eggs. They dyed them all kinds of colors. All right, does anybody remember anything else they had in the dime stores? Oh, they had embroidery threads.
Yes.
Oh, and back in the day, before people had TV, that's the way little girls amused themselves, is by doing embroidery. And you know, remember what they were making? They were filling up a great big box that they called the
Hope chest.
chest. Oh my goodness, Mother kept saying, you've got to do a lot of embroidering, Deanna, because this chest has to be filled before you get married. Because this is your goal, is to have a lot of beautiful things for your marriage. So we were all geared toward having children and getting married. Nobody in my generation thought, or the girls, did not think about having a life as a single woman, because back then that was pretty much frowned upon, being a career woman. You're supposed to be a mother and have children. So that was our goal. All right, so my goal in writing my books is to talk about the silent generation and how we changed, how womanhood in America changed. All right, I'm a member of the silent generation. The silent generation was a generation born between the end of the Depression and the end of World War II, okay? And everybody from like 1945, which is 1939 basically to 1944. And 45, the war was over, so kids born between 45 and 64 were members of the baby boomer generation. And then the other generations I kind of lost track of. They just keep repeating themselves. I heard last night at a gathering that Generation A is starting up because they've already gone through Generation Z. So anyway, those are the reasons that I wrote my books, is to talk about how women were raised when we were growing up and how they've changed, all right? So let me see what I have down here first. All right. The people from the silent generation, what were they like? I think there might be some silent generation people here in this group. Okay, usually when I give a talk, most of the people are baby boomers, or Generation X or Z, or one of those generations. I don't know the dates of, but all right, we were raised, the silent generation. Does anybody know any character traits that may have been true for the silent generation? I'll give you one real quick. Thrifty. We were very thrifty. Does anybody know why we would have been thrifty?
The Depression.
All right, our parents went through the Depression, and boy, were they scared about money. And they made us very thrifty. All right, what's another characteristic of the silent generation?
The man rules.
Yeah. The man is the king of the castle. I'm sure you all have seen The Honeymooners. I'm the king of this castle. Everybody does what I say. Yes, and that's really true. Women never questioned their husbands because he was the breadwinner, because back then women were almost not allowed to get a job if they were married, because it reflected poorly on his manly abilities to support the household. And if they lived in poverty, well, that was just too bad. She selected the wrong guy, because she wasn't allowed to get married, or excuse me, allowed to leave the house and go out for a job. All right. Also, people were very loyal back then. They got a job and they stayed with the job. Now people work 6 months and they've got a different job. Jobs are also not as secure as they used to be. My dad, when we came into the city, he got a job at Fair's Brewery. Does anybody remember Fair's Brewery?
Oh, yeah.
All right, and he stayed there. And his whole working career Fair's unfortunately went out of business. Then he went to another beer company and worked for them. But the people that were employers, they treated their workers like family. Like Fair's gave us a wonderful turkey for Christmas, and a fruit cake, and a ham for Thanksgiving, and for not a ham for Thanksgiving, a ham for Easter, a turkey for Thanksgiving. So, yeah, and they gave a wonderful Christmas party to the children down in the Rothskeller. Y'all remember where the Rothskeller was? Yeah, the basement of Steelbach, right? And the Santa Claus would come, the mothers would play Christmas carols on the piano, and everybody would sing, and all the kids would get a little gift, which was, you know, not that important. It was the gathering. And in the summer, they had picnics for us. So the employers valued their employees and treated them very well. So those are some of the things about the silent generation and how we were raised. And the reason we're called silent is because there weren't very many of us. We were influenced, like Susan said, by the Depression. People didn't have big families in the Depression, unless they were farmers and needed the help. Mostly the people had 1 or 2 kids, or if any. And then, of course, during World War II, where were the men? They were not around. It's pretty hard to produce a child by yourself, at least back in those days before all the scientific development that's happened. All right, so let me read you a little bit from a program that was on KET back in the 70s, and Liv Ullmann was the actress. All right, and the name of it was Scenes from a Marriage, and it gives you a good idea of how women were raised in the silent generation era. We were raised to be compliant and sweet, all right? Things did change, but this is, all right, so this is what she's saying as from the Scenes of a Marriage. All right, Liv Ullmann, representing a girl of our silent generation. I have to admit that I don't know who I am. See, we were raised to not know who we were. We were the husband's wife or the son's mother, okay? I've always been able to I've always done what people told me to do. I've been obedient, adaptable, meek. My mother punished any lapses from that convention. My entire upbringing was aimed at being agreeable. I've tried desperately to please everybody. As a teenager, I was ugly and clumsy, and I was always reminded about that. I found that if I kept my thoughts to myself and was ingratiating to others, I was rewarded. It became second nature to be deceitful and secretive. I used to think that I was behaving unselfishly, but now I know that I was a coward and ignorant of who I really am. So that was the way we were encouraged to be back in the days of the silent generation. We were encouraged to be silent, especially as women. But things happened to change womanhood. The baby boomers came on. Does anybody know what happened in 1960? That was a very strong change for womanhood. It's a big invention. The birth control pill. And at that time, most women in my generation thought that it was sinful to get the birth control pill. And they didn't for a long time. But the baby boomers didn't have those premonitions. They said, hey, the pill's out there, I want the pill. And they took the pill. So women started to change when the boomer generation came on. I usually have a PowerPoint, but I forgot to bring my computer this morning, so we will get through this without a PowerPoint. All right. Mostly, I'm going to be asking you all for some of your memories. All right. So I have a list of dates that I'd like to read to you about some of the ways that things changed. All right. 1960 was the birth control pill. Okay. 1960 was SNCC, SNCC, which stands for Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee. So things started whipping up in the colleges, all right, and that was probably my generation in 1960, the silent generation, but those were the males mostly, but they activated some of the females. All right, 62 is SDS, Students for Our Democratic Society. 63, the Freedom Riders fought for voting rights down south. In 63, I didn't know that they did it that far back. All right, 63, Betty Friedan wrote what?
The feminine mystique.
The feminine mystique, and that was changing women's attitudes about their lives and privileges that they should be getting that they weren't. Okay, in 63, unfortunately, in June, Medgar Evans was killed. 63 in August, Martin Luther King did the I Have a Dream speech, which was very powerful. All right, November of 63, John Kennedy was killed, assassinated, and that was a big, big, big changer for our society. In January of 64, LBJ waged the war on poverty. And actually, 1964 was America's most prosperous year before we started declining. All right, August of 64, the bodies of the 3 civil rights workers were found. In August of 64, I got married, a long time ago. All right, October of 64, the Berkeley campus riots started. August of 64, the Philadelphia city riots started. So this, even though it was such a generous, a prosperous year, things were really starting to percolate. And I think that a lot of it happened because of Kennedy's death. Like, the whole country went kind of bananas after that. All right, in 64, in November, LBJ won the presidency over whom? Does anybody remember who ran against him? Barry Goldwater, very conservative man. All right, in 1964, the Gender Employment Equity Act was legislated. And things are still not really equal, are they, as far as the gender in the workplace? November of 65, we had a campus riot here in Louisville's demonstration, all right? In 65 and 66, there were huge changes in women's fashions. My generation, we wanted to be perfect like our mothers, and we read books, like Vogue and all those other beautiful books about how we should look, and we tried our best to look like the older generation because we thought they were perfect, and we were trying to be perfect like them. But the younger women, they didn't like the older generation. They wanted to be individuals. So what do you think got popular as far as women's rights? Mini skirts, yes. Bikinis, oh my God, you showed skin, wow. And go-go boots, remember the go-go boots? Okay, and hot pants, yeah. All right, they became very bold. Okay, in 65, 66, the flower children came about. They went to the airports to make money. These were the teenagers, and this is how they made money, by saying what? Buy a flower. And they did the Hare Krishna melodies singing at the airports and various places. All right, June of 66, we had the National Organization of Women develop. Now, all right? 66, Tim Leary started what? What did Tim Leary do? That Harvard professor that invented or started LSD, all right. In April of 66, things were getting so out of hand that we were starting to wonder if God was dead. And there was a Time magazine. Anybody remember that cover? It was in black with big red letters, and it said, "Is God dead?" And they were not joking. People were really thinking that God was dead. There were so many murders going on. There were so many serial killers out there. All right. Stokely Carmichael in 66 started the Black Panthers. He didn't think that Martin Luther King's nonviolent program was working fast enough. All right. In July of 66, Richard Specht killed the 8 nurses in Chicago. In March of 68, LBJ refused to run for presidency. He was becoming very unpopular because of what? The Vietnam War. Does anybody remember his statement?
If elected, I will not run. If nominated, I will
If
not
nominated, I will not run, I cannot.
Elected, I will not serve.
Yeah, I will not serve, thank you. That is perfect. All right, so in 68, April, does anybody know who was killed in April of 68?
King.
Martin Luther King. All right, in June of 68, who was killed? Bobby Kennedy. All right, August, there was a Democratic convention in Chicago, and what happened? A big riot in Grant Park. All right, in 69, we had our own sad event in Louisville, and that is the Fontaine Ferry Park closed. And it had been such a famous park and so amusing. And I've got a whole chapter in Kiss Your Elbow on the rides and the attractions and the fun at Fontaine Ferry. We hated to see it go, but nobody would go down there anymore because it was dangerous. All right, in 69, Nixon was elected. Does anybody remember what his promises were when he was elected? I will stop violence.
He was gonna
Okay.
end the Vietnam War.
I will end the Vietnam War. I will stop the draft for young men. All young boys had to go into the army the minute they turned 18. They got their letter. I had 7 brothers, remember? 5 of them had to go in. The other 2 were too young. Okay. Also, he said, I will lower the voting age. Remember, it was 21 the whole time I was growing up. I didn't get to vote for John Kennedy. I really wanted to because I wasn't 21. I was only 20. Okay. All right. So in June of 69, we had the man on the moon. All right. In 69, Nixon had the draft changed to the lottery system. In 69, sad, Charles Manson killed Sharon Tate and her friends. Okay. In 1970, OSHA was developed, and that's the, does anybody have a good explanation for OSHA? Protection of occupations, yeah. Before that, I mean, if machines cut off your arm or your finger, well, that's just too bad. Then things become regulated, thank God for that. In 70, the Kent State killings, okay? In 70, Janis Joplin died, all right? Jimi Hendrix died in 70. Jim Morrison died in 71.
They were all 27.
Yeah, they were all really. They were all 27. That's interesting, Jack. I didn't know that. All right, in 71, Gloria Steinem started what? What did she do? Ms. Magazine. All right, 71 in March, the voting age changed from 21 to 18. 73, the Symbionese army kidnapped Patty Hearst. Does anybody know the purpose of the Symbionese army? What they claimed, their claim to existence was, yeah, they wanted to change capitalism, fight against capitalism. In April of 74, we had a tornado here in Louisville. How many remember that?
Clearly.
Yeah.
Went right over
Very-
my house.
Oh, it did. Well, you would
I
remember.
live by the fairgrounds.
Oh my gosh. All right, in August of 74, Nixon left the presidency in disgrace. All right, and 75, the end of the war finally under Gerald Ford. So Nixon made a promise. Some of his promises he was able to keep, but he was not able to stop the war. But Gerald Ford, his predecessor, did. Okay. All right, so let's talk about some of the things that you guys would like to remember from the old days, either from the 60s, the 70s. Oh, I'm sorry, Robert, one thing before I forget it. All right, so I wrote this book in 2010, and I've sold thousands of copies of this. It's very popular. I had a wonderful launch at Carmichael's. I had a whole bunch of people there. I sold almost 1,000 books, or $1,000 of books, not 1,000 books. Okay, and I was the best seller in Louisville. The Courier, our wonderful paper we used to have, I had every week a total of who sold the most books. Okay. All right, and then during the pandemic, I came out with another book because everybody wanted a sequel to Kiss Your Elbow. All right, so I wrote this one, Changing the Sheets, and this is about the 60s and 70s. This one's about the 40s and 50s, 60s and 70s, when all those things I was just talking about came about. All right, and this one is my life after divorce, because so it's the 80s and beyond. Back in the 70s, women were winning so many rights. We were the ones that took women away from the kitchen and out into the world, and we did win women's rights, thanks to Ruth Bader Ginsburg, who helped us a lot. But I thought that women had all kinds of rights. You know, I was riding on high, got a divorce, gonna have my own life, and then Ronald Reagan was elected. Things started going backwards, and they've been going backwards for women ever since. All right, so anyway, these are the poster covers. The books are available at Amazon now. I used to have them at Carmichael's. I'm gonna give out this card real quick. All right, it has copies of my book, and here's the general reason I wrote my book. If our parents were the greatest generation, we were the luckiest. We benefited from the social programs that the greatest generation won for America. So there's a little scan, okay, thank you. There's a little scan thingy on the back, and that shows where you can get the books. I used to have them at Carmichael's, but I can't afford that anymore because they sell on consignment, and I don't want to have 300 books at my house because you have to buy them in groups of 100 to get a decent price. Okay. Hang on to that question, Robert.
Sure will.
Yeah, it's great for presents from the older generation. None of you guys are old, but you all might enjoy some of these memories. There you go.
Did you know Debbie Hahn?
No, because I was already married and left the family. But my siblings certainly would. They were there for 40 years.
Okay.
Yeah. All right. Did everybody get a card?
We got two,
Oh,
yeah.
okay.
Thank you.
Did you get one too?
Yes,
Yes.
we did. Go
All
ahead.
right. Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
Thank
All
you.
right. So everybody got one?
Yes.
Okay. All right, so this is the way I promote my books, and they've all been done in, well, I've recorded all of them through Head First Studio, which is in Smoketown, and, oh, no, it's in Shelby Park, and it's the studio that records Jack Harlow. He's the son of the owner, okay? They also they have a book section, so I recorded in the book section. So that my voice is on all of them. And so, as you're taking questions, I'm gonna hand out these reviews. These are reviews on the audios, and they're just from some people that have listened to the books and what they said about it. Okay, questions and memories. Open up your memory books in your brain and start telling about what used to go on in your life during those eras. All right, and you were first, Robert.
Two things. I saw an American musical group called The Birds
Uh-huh.
at Fountain Ferry.
Oh, did
Gypsy
you?
Village.
At Gypsy Village.
Gypsy Village.
How's that?
Passing out your
Yeah,
name.
yeah.
That's right.
And then I was in Chicago during the Democratic.
Oh, you were? I bet that was exciting. Sure, I'm sorry. I lost track. I bet that was exciting. Did you feel in danger?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah, wow, right.
Were you in Grant Park?
Yes.
Oh, wow.
And then when Obama, I don't know if everybody remembers or not, but when Obama when he became president of the United States, remember president? He gave a speech in Grant Park.
Oh,
And I remember,
that's right,
and I thought,
he
I
did.
remember Grant Park then, and I remember Grant Park then.
Well, and it was wonderful when he spoke, but then
Yeah.
things had
And he
settled
could
down.
speak too, that was the other.
Oh, everything he said was.
Could you say your sentiment?
Okay, where did I leave off? I don't wanna leave anybody out. Oh, I understand. Lunch hours never last long enough. Alrighty. So let's have some more memories. This is the best part of the talk. You guys get to share. Yes.
I remember being married and not being able to get a credit card.
Oh, thank you for bringing that up. Women were not allowed to have credit cards until 77 or 8, something like that. Yeah, everything had to go through the daddy, through the husband's name. Susan?
My mother was widowed in 1970, when she had 2 children under 18. She had to get a court order to be named legal guardian of her children.
Her own
Her
children
children she carried and birthed.
and
She had to
birthed
be-
and developed.
Yeah.
That's
She had
amazing.
A named legal guardian of her own.
I didn't even have a clue about that.
Oh, girl. And by the way, Miss Arce's thesis, explain it to me.
Oh,
It's in
Arce's
your book.
thesis, yes. One of the chapters in my books, I became a teacher at 19 because, and this is something I really wanted to bring out, the good thing about being a silent generation, we were a small generation, but the boomers were a huge generation. So all these kids were crowding the classrooms, and there was desperate need for teachers. One of the teachers at St. Agnes, where I taught second, She had 90 kids in her first grade class. They were in rooms of 45 on either side of the hall, and parents would come in and volunteer to help the kids do seat work while she taught in one room, and then she'd flip 45 minutes later and go and teach the other group. So I was able to get a teacher certificate for a year and a half of college, and that's why I started. And so the first school I taught was Holy Name, but all the Catholic schools had this. The classroom teacher had to teach music. They would refuse to buy a special salary for a music teacher. All right, and there was this book we sang from, and the artist's thesis was when the music would go up, your hand would go up, and when the music went down, it went down, and then when you extended the note, you ran your arm longer. Okay, and does anybody remember
Yes.
the artist's thesis?
I didn't know that's what it was
We did
called.
it for years and didn't know what it was.
Well, yeah, everybody sang and didn't know what it was. I don't know if teachers even explained that it was called the artist's thesis. We would just move our hands and the kids would move their hands. Thanks for that question. All right, other questions,
It's
other,
not a question.
observe,
Sorry.
observe it.
We went to double sessions for school,
Yeah.
morning session and afternoon.
And afternoons, I remember that, and thank God we didn't have to
Cause
do
overcrowded.
that. It was overcrowded, yes.
Memories 1974 being outside the White House the night Nixon announced he was resigning.
Oh, wow.
Oh, wow.
That was a memory that sticks in my head.
I
every
bet.
single day.
Uh-huh. Yeah, and that was, my husband and I's wedding anniversary, 10-year wedding anniversary. It was August the 8th, 64, and we were on a camping trip, and the people next door to us in the campgrounds had a TV, and they said, come over here, you gotta hear this, Nixon is resigning. So we grabbed our beer on a camping trip, we drank lots of beer,
Yep.
and ran across the campgrounds and watched it on TV. Other memories, that's a good one, yes.
I mean, not mine personally, but I remember my grandma always talking about, and I guess it would've been sixties, cause my dad was born then. When he was one, she was in the TB hospital with a lot of people.
Oh,
She ended up
Oh,
making
yeah.
it out, didn't have it, but
Uh-huh.
she talked about being on the front porch.
The Waverly out there?
Waverly.
Wow.
Too much
Getting
Tylenol.
lots of fresh air.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Too much Tylenol.
Yeah.
Too much Tylenol. Oh, yeah, that's what did it.
Doesn't work.
Other memories?
Shipping port.
Oh, thank you. What do you remember about Shipping Port?
Shipping port, when I was young, first came to Louisville,
Uh-huh.
in the 70s, you could go out to Shipping Port Island and hang around and do all kinds of stuff.
Like fishing? Could you fish out there?
Oh, yeah, oh, yeah. And, a lot of white bass, and
Okay.
catfish. But, that was the first major part of Louisville.
Down by Portland. Yeah,
No,
last week the
Shipping
port,
Shipping
Port Island. Yeah.
And it was, I've got a book that's got a map of it.
Wow.
We had
Was
all
the
the-
Tarascon
All
Mill
laid
there?
out in blocks and
Yeah.
stuff.
Was the Tarascon Mill there? I think it was.
Yeah, it was there.
Yeah.
That was the Tarascon.
That was part of Portland, of course, and that was a very important mill because it ground the cornmeal and stuff like that.
They
And,
had Shipping Port, I got a map of Shipping Port
Uh-huh.
where it has all the blocks. They
Oh.
Laid it out in blocks
laid out
and
in
stuff.
blocks, yeah.
People have,
Well-
must have been more people living in Shipping Port than on the river.
Than on the
Or
mainland.
the-
Well, and in Portland, if you know much about Portland, go down to the Portland Museum and you'll hear a lot about what you're saying.
Really neat.
They actually went down to that area by the river in Portland and mapped off or,
I've got maps of
guarded
Shipping
off
Port.
all the places that used to be there. The people in Portland were very angry that area did not get rebuilt after the flood. All those buildings, there were hotels, there were bars, there were hardware stores, and regular houses down in that area by the river that's now just an empty land. But the Portland Museum went down there and staked off the foundations of a lot of the important ones, like the Francis Hotel was one of them that was very popular. Thank you for bringing that up about Shipping Port. Yeah, and when I die, I have left the rights to make movies or Netflix series or whatever out of my books to the Portland Museum. I get lots of offers but I'm not gonna spend the rest of my life sitting at a computer. I refuse to. That will be the benefit of the next generation. So if Portland Museum wants to make movies or Netflix series like, you know, movies and all that stuff, let them go ahead.
Do you have a copy of the Sketches of Louisville?
I've got a whole bunch of books on Louisville, but I used to teach this stuff when I taught at Roosevelt Elementary.
1819 book about Louisville, and had a real neat map. They had shipping port all laid out in city blocks and
Oh,
stuff.
I bet that would be fascinating. I bet you could
Yeah,
get that at the
I used to
library.
run around on shipping port, and then about, I don't know how many years ago, not too many years ago, when I was a youngster, I was in my 40s or 50s. But they got some characters affiliated with the Corps of Engineers got all huffy and puffy about pretending that I was a terrorist because I was running around on shipping port island.
So was that after 9/11 that they thought you were a terrorist?
The core is weird anyway.
No, they won't let you set
They
foot
won't
on
let
the
you
place
get,
now.
yeah.
It kept getting
Well,
worse
we
and
used to
worse.
get up on the bridge, the Pennsylvania Railroad Bridge, and look at the falls underneath. But now I think if you did that, you'd probably be shot because of thinking you were a terrorist. But we used to take the kids from Roosevelt up there, you know?
For a field trip.
Yeah, for a field trip. Good, we got some more memories, yes.
Me again?
Okay, yeah.
We didn't live too far when I
Yeah,
was little
that's on
from
the
Central Park.
it's over the Slough River.
And we used to, my mother used to take me up there and sit on those two big black lions.
Oh, the lions in Central Park, yeah.
And just enjoy.
Oh, yeah, Central Park is one of our beautiful parks by the Olmsted.
You know,
Yeah,
back then,
and-
enjoyed going through, St. James.
Oh, yeah. Did anybody go to St. James last weekend? Oh, you know how popular that is. You can hardly find a place to put your foot down. It's so popular. But I love to go to Central Park in the summer for the Shakespeare, and those lions, of course, are still there. And I don't know the significance of them. Does anybody? Yeah, the Women's Club at one time gave a program on the history of Central Park, and it was really interesting. But I don't remember anything that was said because that was about 10 years ago. I should have taken better notes. Other memories? Here's the one, yes.
Going back to what women couldn't do, you couldn't you couldn't sit at the bar.
Oh, God.
Remember that?
You would be a lady of ill repute if you even tried.
I don't know when that changed. I mean, it had to change
The
legally.
boomers changed it. They wanted their drinks and they went into the bars.
Well, there were bars that had signs that say, ladies not invited.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Yes.
About the newspaper, like in the Help Wanted, it was Help Wanted Women, Help Wanted.
Oh, you're so right, yeah. And same thing for rentals. Yeah, yeah. Cause I used to rent a duplex and I wanted, men only because they happened to take less utility use. They would leave the house. I wanted to rent to men and I sent this in to the courier and they said, well, actually you called things in those days. And this would have been in the 70s. No, we can't seclude like that. It has to be open to everybody. You'll have to tell them when they get there that they're not allowed to be
We
there.
had 2 newspapers too.
And we did, yes. Do you remember the name of the evening one? The
We had
Little
the red
Times.
flash like at 5 o'clock in the evening, we had a red stripe on it.
Oh, yeah, yeah. We got the
Latest
evening, yeah, we got the evening paper because Dad, couldn't read it before he left for work in the morning. Yeah, other memories, yes.
Well, I was just gonna ask you, I mean, by the time I got here to Louisville, 4th Street was pretty much dead.
Yeah.
So I remember,
sad.
folks, you remember the slow transition from 4th Street as things began to kind of die off and
Yeah.
move out and all
In
that.
1964 or 60, I think it was 64, the mall in St. Matthews opened. That was the death knell.
Beginning of the end.
Because then other malls opened. But before that, all shopping of any significance was done on 4th Street.
And you got dressed up when you went
Oh,
downtown.
yes, does anybody remember going on 4th Street before the malls got popular?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I shopped every Saturday downtown. I took the bus from the south
Yeah.
end of Louisville to shop
See,
downtown.
I think those
Alright.
stories are fascinating, cause when I see
Yeah.
these old pictures
Uh-huh.
of 4th Street just packed with
Packed
people,
with
it's just,
people.
it amazes
It was
me.
great.
Yeah.
The Blue Boar Cafe.
The Blue
I
Boar.
used to go shopping at Bix and
Yeah.
then go to the Blue Boar and eat. I loved it so much.
And all ladies got their wedding dresses at Selman's,
Yes.
remember that?
And Levy Brothers.
And
I
Levy
love that
Brothers
store.
lit up like Levy's, and they had all
No,
those
it
little
was-
bulbs all over the building,
Kaufman's.
and Coffin Straws.
Kaufman Strauss was my first job.
Oh, was it?
Any-
Oh, that's great. Anybody else work
Bacon's
downtown?
was down too.
Who was?
Bacon's.
Bacon's the most popular, and we hated to see Bacon's die.
Stewart's too. I love
And
Stewart's.
Stewart's was,
The Christmas
does anybody
stuff.
remember
That's what I-
Stewart's when they had the lady
In
or
the
the young
swing.
girl that swang across
And
the
the
cosmetics?
spring,
Yeah.
And the Christmas decorations.
And
I
the
love
Christmas,
the Christmas
oh,
decor.
yes.
The windows.
Does anybody remember going downtown just to see the Christmas
Yes.
decorations?
Oh, yeah.
And we had a Christmas evening, like a parade, and it went down 4th Street back then. I think it came from the, Union Station where the soldiers were, cause you know, Union Station, which is now TARC headquarters. Alright, looked like a big castle. I came up to 4th Street and went down 4th Street, Santa went down 4th Street, and everybody went to the stores. They were all open, they were all giving out little trinkets like biscuits or, cookies or something like that. And the kids were so excited. How many of you remember the X-ray machines in the shoe stores? Good.
Remember
All right.
the disease?
You would, yes, Boston shoes, Boston Buddy or something, wasn't it? You would put your feet under
Yep.
this little stand and you press a button and it would show whether your feet fit into the shoe or not.
Yeah.
But after, and most kids just did it for the fun of it, which is why it became dangerous. I know we did, cause I thought it was fascinating to see my feet inside those shoes.
Yes.
Any other memories of
And
shopping?
the clock, the Derby clock.
The Derby
Oh,
clock,
yes.
yes, with Barney Bright, who was my next door neighbor on her lane, built that clock, and it worked beautifully for a while. Well, it's on storage, it went to the zoo for a while, then it went to Bowman Field for a while, and now it's in storage.
Probably down at Louisville Gardens with all the other.
With all the, the other stuff that they are going to
I think
fix.
it's Adam
No, that was
Matthews.
Who?
I think Adam Matthews owns it now, the guy who owns
Was it
Cheesecake.
Cheesecake guy?
Owns the, clock?
Yeah.
Oh, that's
Oh.
great. Adam Matthews, is that the cheesecake guy?
Uh-huh.
Cheesecake.
Okay, yeah.
That's what he is, but yeah.
Any other memories?
Yeah, you
Yes,
know, you were talking,
Margaret.
when you started teaching and how big the classes were.
My class was 42.
Yeah, well,
42 kids.
6 years later, my youngest sister had to go to public school because Catholic schools were dropping 1st grade. Because and you know, like you said, it would have been like 6 or 7 years after the pill,
Uh-huh,
and there weren't enough kids.
that's right.
So, yeah.
Yeah, that's a great point. I'm glad you brought that up. It didn't take long for a big change in society, did it? The pill made a huge difference. Other memories? How many sat on Santa's lap back in the day? And where was the Santa?
And Randy Atchers too.
And Randy, oh gosh, you brought a wonderful memory. Was anybody in here on T-Bar-V?
No, my brother. I didn't.
That was a fantastic show. It really, you know, there were all these shows that used to bring about a sense of community.
Yes.
And that was really one of them. Everybody looked forward to watching who was gonna be on T-Bar-V that day.
And they had the savings post.
I got a savings post. Did anybody else go down? What bank was that gave out the savings? Oh, yeah. That's green stamps, remember? S&H green stamps were
And then
for
they-
Winn-Dixie.
Yes.
Kroger had top value.
Yeah, they were yellow.
And they were yellow, and with 55 books, you could get, whatever.
And they're
A new
card.
coaster. Yeah, we spent
Coupons in
many
the back of Lucky
evenings doing
Strikes
those.
too.
Oh, yeah.
Please?
Coupons on the back of Lucky
That's
Strikes.
Oh, yeah, so.
We always said my mother was saving for an iron lung for my father.
Was he the one that died when you were 2
Yes, he
years
was.
old? Oh, they were effective, weren't they?
Yes, they were.
Those cigarettes. My dad actually loved Lucky Strikes because they were the man cigarette. They didn't have a filter, So they tasted good, according to him, but he lost a lung. Any other memories? You all got some great ones. What else was going on, like in the dime stores and things like that?
The elevator guy.
The elevator man.
Oh, yeah.
Then he had that stick that he brought back and forth, and he sometimes missed the floor and had to jockey it back and forth several times, and your stomach got upset. That's a good memory.
Until several years ago, the Commodore still had.
Yeah,
it.
he just left a couple of years ago.
really?
They still have elevator
Yeah,
man.
he just left about a year or two
Okay.
ago.
Really?
I remember,
Kinda sad.
glasses, reading glasses at Woolworths, and I often wondered,
Uh-huh.
who would go to Woolworths to buy your glasses? I had no idea what cheaters were.
They were cheaters. Now you get them at the dollar store.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah, which is today's version of the dime store,
Yes.
the
Yeah.
dollar
Yes.
store. Yeah.
Except it's a lot junkier.
Um,
Dime
it,
stores
um,
were always so neat.
They were so
orderly,
neat, and there's so much an
They had the
adventure.
food counter.
And the food camp. How many remember the colonnade?
Oh,
In the
yes.
basement
Yeah.
of what building?
The Starks.
Starks Building. And now unfortunately the Starks Building has plywood over the front doors. You can't even get
Yeah,
in.
they're-
In the basement of the Stewart's, in the restaurant, you had to write out your own order.
Oh, yeah.
And the waitress would come along and pick it up.
Uh-huh.
Green pieces of
Well, I
paper,
never-
they would pick up,
Yeah,
but you
I
wrote it out
remember
yourself.
that. Do you remember the name of the bar in the basement that you could, eat, where you could eat in the basement, that counter in the basement?
No.
I thought it had a special name, cause their big fancy restaurant was on the fourth or fifth
that was the
floor, and
Blue
it was
Hair
called the
Room.
Orchid
No, that was-
Room.
Yeah, it was the orchid
Hair
room,
room,
but
that was
also
the
known as the
orchid
blue
room.
hair room.
The Blue Hair Room, okay, I can visualize that. Remember the candy counters, you could, it was sold, the candy was sold by weight, and you could get a nice little piece of candy for less than a nickel because of the
Yes.
weight of the candy.
Yeah, we used to go to the Uptown. My
Uh-huh.
parents would give us a quarter. It was 12 cents to get in. Then we
Uh-huh.
had 13 cents to buy something at the counter
Oh, at the
inside. But
counter.
we went next door to Model Drug and got more candy for our money than we could have at.
But you usually got two movies too.
Two
Yeah.
movies, cartoons.
And a cartoon, yeah, and
Yeah.
newsreel, yep.
Yeah, alright, what were some of the theaters downtown?
The Rialto.
The Rialto,
Mary
unfortunately,
Anderson.
the Mary Anderson,
Ohio.
the Ohio,
Kentucky.
the Kentucky, the Brown Theater, don't forget the Palace, what was the name of it? The Lowe's, it was
Lowe's.
called Lowe's back
Yeah,
then.
yeah.
And the National Theater was actually around when I was a kid. They had a vaudeville and movies,
Oh,
yeah. And I remember somebody throwing a pie, an actor throwing a pie in the other actor's face, and I thought, what a waste of good pie!
The Rialto had a beautiful staircase.
The Rialto, oh, yes.
Yes.
And it had crystal chandeliers from
Yes.
Belgium. I mean, it was such a loss to this community. And what is it now? A parking lot. What a waste. Yeah, yeah. So, anyway, anything else? Any other memories?
You went to Spalding, didn't you?
I did when it was called Nazareth.
What was the
Oh,
campus
boy.
like?
Oh, it was so sweet. It was so sweet. It was 3 floors in that beautiful mansion. The library was in the basement and they called it the catacombs. And it was very dark
So it
and
was-
dank,
it was
and
just the
the
mansion?
ceilings were these arched, vaulted ceilings. And then I was an education major, so I went to, a lot of the education classes were held in a mansion that was like a block down the street, which is now where their dormitories are. Okay, and then on the building that is now a parking lot on the north side of the big beautiful mansion, it's now a parking lot, but that's where our language classes, I took French, and that's where our French classes were and the German classes were in that building. But most buildings were held in the mansion itself. Most classes, I mean, were held in the mansion itself.
do you remember the visitation home?
No, where was it?
It was on 4th Street,
Uh-huh.
right down beyond, and it was for working girls
Uh-huh.
that came in from the
Oh,
country.
From the country.
And I think the nuns ran it.
Uh-huh.
So it was along through there. I don't think the building itself, but my mother, who is from Nelson County, my
Uh-huh.
mother was from New Hope.
Oh, gosh, that's where I was baptized. It's St.
It's St.
Vincent de
Vincent,
Paul
yeah.
at New Hope.
She grew up in the big house right across from the church.
Really?
Yes.
Yeah. Wow, that was a beautiful, it was a fun town back then.
Yes, yes, it was. 'cause
Hard to
I
believe
remember-
that.
I know,
I've
actually,
been there.
everything there is dead now.
Yeah.
Except for the church,
Yeah.
but,
Yeah.
yeah, and thank you for bringing that up. No, I don't remember that.
But that's where a lot of the girls from out there would come
Would
and
come.
stay, they'd come into work
It was
or
like
go
a-
to business school.
Like a safe place for them
Yes.
to stay.
Yes, like a dorm.
Yeah.
But.
And, yeah, Margaret, did you go to Nazareth?
I went to Spalding.
Spalding.
That's why I was
It
asking.
became Spalding the year I graduated,
Okay, it was
in
already.
'63.
It was already, I was there in the early '70s.
Uh-huh, yeah, it was already Spalding, but Spalding was across from Green Ups, remember Green Ups? Yeah, beautiful, beautiful gowns, yes,
That building's still there.
yes. All right, other buildings that have changed, does anybody know what, was on the land where the Mid-City Mall is now?
The Athenaeum.
The
Please.
Is that what was called, an Athenaeum? Something like
No,
that?
that's over, that's still around.
Oh, okay.
All right,
It
that's
was an
over on
orphanage
Barrett.
home. What
But
is
it was connected to that church, that German orphanage, the German Presbyterian church, or not German Presbyterian, German Protestant church, which has that little church at the corner of Breckenridge and Barrett.
Right.
They ran an orphanage called the German Protestant Orphanage, and it was located where the Mid-City Mall is.
I had heard
Yeah.
of these.
Yeah, that's where it was. So keep, the Mid-City Mall property in your prayers.
Yeah, no
It's
kidding.
being
Yeah.
sold and we're scared to death. I live in the Triangle. We're scared to death of what they're gonna put in there. And, developers are evil. I'm sorry if there's any developers in this room, but I don't love developers. But anyhow, thank you for your kind attention, and if we're all done.
Great.
Oh, okay, my mother was a Boone.